Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be guiding through a yin practice or restorative type yin practice. So this will be a very deep stretch and longer holds. So the poses will be held for 3 to 5 minutes, and we're going to be moving into some of the deeper into the tissues. So if you have a yoga bolster or a cushion of some sort, you could get that ready. And if you don't have a yoga bolster, you might want a couple folded blankets or something that you could roll up so that we could use that to support us later. If you have a yoga strap, and I've got a variety of yoga blocks here. So bringing out all of your yoga props and putting them just beside you on your mat. We're going to take just a couple minutes to focus in on our breath. So as you're ready, sitting up tall, getting comfortable, closing your eyes and connecting into your breath. As you begin to breathe, find a rhythm for your breath that works for you. Roll your shoulders back and down, lengthen up through the top of your head. Any clearing breaths to help you get grounded. And just allowing yourself to settle towards the floor. So feeling your root or your sit bones, your legs connected to the floor. And letting any heaviness, any heavy energy release towards the floor here. And breathing up into your heart space, setting an intention for your practice here. And thank yourself for being here. We'll bring our palms together at the center of our hearts. Take a couple deep breaths into your heart space. And as you're ready, opening up your eyes and releasing your hands. Today is actually the 1-year anniversary of when I began teaching online yoga. So it feels like I've come a long way. Super excited to be offering this from my living room and reaching you all here. All right. I'm going to bring the bolster off to the side for a moment. I'm going to sit up on my soft bone block. You can sit up on whatever it is that's comfortable that allows your hips to elevate a little bit here. And we're going to start with the bottoms of our feet together, our knees wide in bound angle or butterfly, or there's lots of words for this movement. Now, there's a couple options here. Some people like their heels closer to the pelvis. Some people like to have it their heels further away, more of a diamond shape. Find what works for you here today. If you need some support for your outer hips, you can have a couple other blocks or a couple of little blankets here for a bit of support. Now, like I said, I'm going to be timing because we're going to be holding these movements for a little bit of time, 3 to 5 minutes, depending. And so, hi, buddy. The cat's joining us. So you could sit upright here. You could lower down. Now, for those of you that have a bolster, you could use the bolster here for a bit of support. Tuck it under your arms, whatever it is that you need here. And as we're holding each form, really working with your breath. So some clearing breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. Finding a rhythm for your breath and noticing when your mind is really active, And see if you can allow your mind to settle. Now, there's no right or wrong on how to hold this form. If you want to come up and out of the form for a bit and move back in, that's totally fine. If you want to round, if you want to be a bit more upright, that's totally up to you. You can close your eyes here. Continue to work with your breath. We're about halfway there. So if there's a place that you could surrender into a bit more, or keep coming back to your breath. Now, as we can move into the last sort of minute here, notice where your mind is and see if you can really deepen your breath. Perhaps some clearing breaths. Just a couple more breaths here. Now, as you're ready, we're going to gently draw our knees back towards one another and give yourself an opportunity to release. That could be moving your feet side to side, or you could have your feet on the ground. Gently move your knees from one side to the other. All right. So I'm going to set up for a little bit of a back bend. So we'll counter off that forward fold in the hips. Now, if you have a yoga bolster, place your forehead, your forearms on the bolster here and settle in. So moving your heart towards the floor, moving your hips up and back. If you have blocks, you could do that too. Put a block, blocks underneath your hands, block underneath your forehead here perhaps. Now we're going to hold this one for not quite as long as the last one, but if you need to come out sooner, please come on out and give yourself a little bit of a break. So settling into this one here. Working with your breath in this deep heart opener to clear out to release any tension, let your shoulders relax. Just remember, if you need to come out sooner, you could come up to tabletop or sit back into child's pose. I'm just going to be here for a few more breaths if you're still here. Now, as you're ready, coming up to tabletop and perhaps rounding your spine for a couple breaths here. Moving through cat and cow as you need to, or creating some circular movements or any other movements here that feel good for you right now. And as you're ready, we're going to step our right foot forward and we're going to make our way into lizard or dragon. Since we're holding this for a while, I'm going to actually turn, set up this way. So with your right foot forward, you can place a block or cushion underneath your left knee. Now, you're going to want to probably move your right foot out to the right, your knee a little bit wide, your knee's over top of your ankle. You could come down to your forearms, you could stay on your hands, and we'll work with our breath here. Come on, you can go outside. Go on. Go on. Now, since this pose can be quite intense, quite a big hip opener, if you need to straighten out your leg or move out for a bit or make a bit of movement here, do what you need to do. And then keep coming back to your breath here. Timer on. So we're just here for a couple more breaths on this side. Maybe 3 or 4, depending on the length of your breath. And as you're ready, we're going to move our hips back and bring your right foot back. And then option here to create a bit of movement with your legs, perhaps circling your hips a few times. And then as you're ready, we'll step our left foot forward and come to the other side. So this side might feel different. Remembering if you lower down, you can always lift back up, or vice versa. You can always straighten your leg out a bit here, come back into it. Connecting into your breath. About another minute left. Staying with your breath here. And when you're ready, we're going to release this side. And again, you might want to move your legs, your hips a little bit, create some circles. And then we're going to sit back into child's pose here. So as you're ready, you may want to bolster, you may not. You can use any props to support you here. As we settle into child's pose. Now, if you're on a bolster, you have it lengthwise, or you can have one cheek on the bolster, and then we'll switch sides halfway through. You have your head turned, you can turn your head in the other direction. We're about halfway here. So if you want to adjust your child's pose, if you don't have the bolster, you could always take your arms over to one side. If you took your arms to one side, you can always take your arms to the other side. You took your arms to the other side. Come back to the center for a bit here. And as you're ready, we're going to make your way out of child's pose. And as you come up, again, you might want to move through cat and cow a few times. You might want to extend your leg back or another. You could even come into downward facing dog if that's something that you'd like to do to stretch out your legs a little bit here. So finding what works for you. And we'll spend maybe about 4 or 5 more breaths moving or just getting yourself released from that child's pose. Just take another breath or two here. Okay. So if you have a bolster, we're going to lie down on the length of the bolster. If you don't, you want to have a thicker blanket than this, perhaps. I have a couple thicker blankets, but you're going to want to roll up a blanket so that it's in a tube. And you're going to lie down on the length of that. So this blanket's quite small. It's not as long as my bolster, as you can see. So you might want to have a bigger blanket than what I have here. Now, if your lower back is quite tight and you lie down on the bolster or the blanket and it hurts your lower back, take another cushion underneath your sacrum here. So we're going to draw our shoulder blades underneath of us. And we'll start with our legs extended. You could either have your legs extended or your feet on the floor with your knees bent, depending on how that feels for your lower back. And then if it's okay to open your arms wide to the sides here. And if you're feeling like you'd like to go back to bound angle, you can also bring the bottoms of your feet together to touch knees wide. But for this one, we're going to focus more on the heart opener. So if you're on that blanket instead of a bolster, you could bring the blanket up a bit higher so it tucks in underneath your shoulder blades, and then your head will just be off of the blanket. So you'll want to have maybe a cushion or something underneath your head. So you're just going to take a moment to get set up here. And then we're going to just really focus on breathing up into our heart space, breathing out and letting our body settle towards the bolster, and feel the support of the bolster underneath you. Letting go with each exhale. And each inhale, feeling a little bit more spacious in the center of your heart. So if you want a big, more of a heart opener, you'll take your arms more overhead or out in line with your shoulders. If you want it to be gentler, you can bring your arms closer to your sides here. Stay with your breath. Remember, you can always adjust your legs as you need to as well. So give it about another minute, seeing if you can just bring yourself gently back to your breath if your mind has wandered. Moving up into your heart space and allowing the back of your body to settle towards the floor. Last few breaths here. Now, as you're ready, if you're still on your back on the bolster or blanket, you might want to roll to one side. Gently lift yourself up. And then we'll move the bolster off to the side again here. So we're going to move into Pigeon Pose. Now, I realize not everybody can access Pigeon Pose. So you can come into Pigeon Pose or figure four. You could take figure four either on your seat or lying down instead. Okay? And again, these are going to be long holds. So if you're lying down and you're holding the back of your leg, you may want to release for a bit and then come back in. Any support here that you need for your head, or maybe a bolster out in front of you if you're a pigeon. We're going to spend a few minutes on each side, so always an opportunity to come out sooner if you need to or want to. If you're feeling like it's getting a little bit intense, work with your breath to clear. Unless you're in pain, you can use your breath to clear and let go a little bit more here. Again, we're going to work with our breath. We're moving into the hips here. So if it starts to feel intense, really use your clearing breath. Use that breath to release anything, any heavy energy. Just about another 5 or 6 breaths here, 4 or 5 breaths. As you're ready, we'll come over this side. If you're on your back, you could find a release on your back. You could bring your knees to your chest or move your knees from side to side. And if you're in pigeon, any movement or stillness that you need here to release. And then whenever you're ready, we'll find our way into the other side. This day might feel different. So keep using your breath to release and let go. We're about a minute in, or a couple more minutes here. Just about another 4 or 5 breaths here on this side. And as you're ready, we're going to come over the side. Make some movement. Give yourself a little bit of a release here. Okay. So we're going to lay down, and I'm just thinking you can have a bolster or a block or a folded up blanket. So whatever it is that you have, we're going to lie down. And we're going to take a supported bridge pose to begin. So that'll be placing a block or bolster underneath your hips, underneath your sacrum, and that could be adjusted on the height. So you might want to have a block. The block can turn to different heights. And then you want to draw your shoulders underneath you. Make sure you have some space for your airway. And then we're going to connect into our breath here. If it's comfortable, you can always straighten out your legs. Some of you are a bit high here, but you could also straighten out your legs as well. I'm not going to hold this one quite as long. Just be here for, I don't know, maybe about another minute. You need to release at any time you can. Now, if you have your block up a bit higher, you'll want to lower it down. We're going to extend our legs up towards the ceiling. I always like to make a few ankle rolls first. You're welcome to that. And then you can also lift your arms here if you like, or you could rest your arms, or you could take your arms overhead again for a bit more of a heart opener. Just a couple more breaths here if you still have your legs up. And as you're ready, we'll bring both feet back down. And let's take our knees up towards our chest. And let's rock a little bit on our lower back. A couple big clearing breaths here. And then we're going to take a twist to one side. So we're not going to hold this twist for a long time. We're just going to take a twist of your choice, whatever works for you. You can have your arms closer to your body. You can have yourself rolled over to the right side as well as your knees, or you can open it up, just depending on how the twist feels on your body.
And as you're ready, we'll come back to the center and we're going to twist to the other side here. Again, you can have your roll over to that side a bit more or open it up here, your choice. Taking your time to come back to the center. One more time, knees to chest. And then we are going to set up for Savasana. So that could be with a bolster. You can place a bolster underneath your knees, or you can lie down along the length of it again. Whatever it is that you need to do for Savasana here. We'll take a moment to get set up. I'm going to lay down again on the length of the bolster. Make sure you stay warm. If your place is cool, put a blanket over top of you, put on a sweater. And then when you're ready, give yourself a couple clearing breaths once you're settled into Shavasana. Give yourself permission to just be here.
Very slowly begin to deepen your breath. Bring your awareness back to your body. Some gentle movement. Wiggle your fingers, toes, circle your ankles and your wrists. And if you're still lying down, you can give yourself a full body stretch. And if you're lying flat on your back on the floor, you can bring your knees up towards your chest. And taking your time to roll to one side and pause here for a moment before making your way up to your seat. And as you come up to your seat, bring your hands over your heart. Take a couple deep breaths here into your heart space. Really thanking yourself for taking the time for this practice. Thanking your body. You can always move your hands together at heart center and bow in and just take a moment of gratitude for anything else that you're really grateful for in this moment. And I'd like to thank you all. I hope you enjoyed this Yin practice, and I hope to see you soon. Namaste, everyone.